Hey, Patreons, welcome back to the Spotlight. This is where we have the opportunity to talk to creators in the pop culture that we love. And we have got probably one of the biggest ones that we've had yet on the screen with us tonight. He's shaking his head. This is Rod Roddenberry, who is the head of Roddenberry Entertainment and the son of legendary Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, obviously, if you didn't know. Rod, it's a genuine pleasure to meet you. How are you doing this evening?
It's 100% my pleasure to be here. It
Oh
really
my
is.
gosh. Wow. That was the exact answer I was looking for. I appreciate it. Well, I'm here with Peter as always. Peter, if you're watching us on video, Peter always dresses up and looks fantastic.
Hello, Peter.
Hello.
He's wearing the big monster maroon tonight. I'm jealous. I can tell Rod's a little jealous. We were talking about it in
Yes.
the run up.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wore a t-shirt, but
I did.
I've got
Yeah.
my name on it.
No,
So,
Hey,
yeah.
that's what counts. That's the archive. That's nice.
Yeah, I had this great. Oh, I had a sweatshirt with my company's name on it. Now I don't. So I was scrambling because we had a little schedule snafu, but here we are. Well, Rod, I'll get us rolling.
Sure.
When you have an interview, I was like, where did things begin? But I was reading a lot of your background, and I wanted to skip over like the obvious parts, like what was it like to blah blah blah. But what I was reading is about your. I know you obviously Star Trek was a part of your life in some fashion because how could you avoid it? But you discovered Star Trek.
I tried to avoid it for
Yeah.
a long time.
I can imagine. Hey, look, every son has been a father, every father has been a son, so to speak. So I get it, But what I read, and please, elucidate a little bit about this, is that you really kind of discovered a little bit more after your father passed in 1991. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, like I said, my exposure to television was Knight Rider, A-Team, Starsky and Hutch, Adam 12, those sorts of things.
Yes,
And
sir.
while they are classics and they are great, and I will still say they are part of my childhood. They're a little bit more one-dimensional. Good guy, bad guy. Good guy
Yep.
wins in the end. I don't want to say there was no depth, but I didn't recognize any depth. Um, it took me a while because when I finally saw Star Trek at an older age, I was blown away because it was Devil in the Dark. And
Mm,
that's just to give it all away, the Horda, the rock monster that's
yeah.
killing humans. When spoiler alerts, when Spock finally realizes that it's intelligent, we should communicate with it, and finds out that it's a mother protecting its young, and we're harvesting its young. That reversal and that plot twist was the first time I said, "Holy crap! This show is not just entertainment. This show is making me reflect on humanity." And at that point, that was my glimpse into, oh, now I get it. A million light bulbs went off, or at least my light bulb went off, and a million
Yeah.
recognitions went, like, now he gets it. So
Yeah.
that doesn't exactly answer your question, but it was a slow grow to that point.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I admit, and now you make me want to run back and watch that episode. A tidbit that I know about that episode is that during the filming of it, William Shatner's father passed away. So
Mhm.
talk about, something that was already very emotional and, everything happening that, parents and children and everything is just, it was just, that's an incredible episode, which I feel like I've not seen in a long time. So I'm going to go back and watch
Yeah,
it because of
yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I think that was the
Cool.
first one that I
High on the
saw when they
list.
did it. It was
Yeah.
one of the first that I saw. I think it was one that the remastered released. So I remember
Yeah.
seeing that. I think that was the first time that I watched it.
Yeah.
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 Which I'm dating myself, but
Well, trust me, I watched it pretty late too. I don't know
Yeah.
how old I was, but I'm sure I was late teens or even early 20s, believe it or not.
Yeah.
yeah,
I hear you.
I was right around the same point when I watched that one, actually.
Peter, go for it.
So you mentioned some of the other TV shows that you watched growing up that were
Mhm.
obviously not Star Trek and a little bit different. So I was wondering, your father came up with a couple other properties that you were involved
Yeah,
in a little bit. So like Earth Final Conflict and
yeah.
Andromeda. Do you have any stories about those or how your experience with those has been a little bit different or interesting?
I'm happy to share my experience on Earth Final Conflict. That was actually my introduction into the entertainment industry and a look at it from behind the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned a great deal about the industry more than how television shows are made. I ended up learning that the Canadians, and I'm generalizing here, of course,
Oh boy.
they really wanted to be a part of the next Roddenberry, legacy production.
Yeah.
And they came to work every day, not just because they were getting paid, but they wanted to be a part of it. Not to down every American or every executive or every suit, but it did feel like, for the distributors, it was just more of another project. And that's
Mm.
when I started to have my battle between creating television entertainment and what Star Trek really is and what it does.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that has been a lifelong battle since. A
Yeah.
struggle. I don't. Battle might be too dramatic, but it really is a struggle to, and everyone who works on these shows, especially in the decision making areas, has to
Oh, yeah.
walk that line.
Yeah.
And so, as critical as I may be about old Star Treks and new Star Treks, I do have to stop myself every now and then and say the struggle that these people go through. I can have some empathy for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I have a newbie question that is
Sure.
one of these like, hey, if I looked it up, I'd probably know the answer. So you have been an executive producer on the Star Trek show since 2016, starting with Discovery, which was in 2017. So here's my idiot question. What exactly does it mean to be an executive producer? I'm sure there are reams of information out there about it, but I'm like, why not just ask somebody who's doing the job? Because it'll probably be a lot more honest.
I'm more than happy to give you my interpretation of that title.
I like it.
And I think it'll be as honest as I can be about it.
Okay.
There are executive producers who are in the production office every day, breaking stories with the writers, with the showrunner, developing the series, meeting with people left and right and making decisions. Alex Kurtzman, who works on the new shows, is an
Yeah.
example of that kind of executive producer.
Hmm.
Then there are the executive producers like me, who I am maybe secondarily or even tertiarily third or so ring out there, where we are not in the production office. We are in our own office. We receive scripts and outlines and casting information, and we receive all that. We review it, and we send in our thoughts and notes.
Okay.
And uh, those notes, we believe and hope are reviewed and looked at with some seriousness, and I want them to be critical. And the truth is, I want them to ideally respond and tell us why they have made the decisions they have made. Not that they have to answer to us.
Right.
They do
Yeah.
not have to answer to us, but it is important that we know why they're doing what they're doing, so we can adjust our notes accordingly.
Right.
And so that is the executive producer that we do. I would honestly say we are executive consultants,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
essentially. But executive producers is the title that we have for this.
Gotcha. Fascinating. Good deal.
That's cool. I don't
Good
think
deal.
I've
I
heard
like that.
as clear of a
Yeah.
description of how
And
that
by the
works.
way, it can be everything in between that.
Yeah.
There
Right.
are executive producers who literally just put in the money and then have nothing else to do.
That was always that, like, like you see a film like, what was it? Steven Spielberg was an executive producer, and he that was his involvement was monetary, or
Yeah.
of some film that I thought you're like, well, I didn't really feel any part of him being a part of this, but then, that was the title. So it's like he was on Goonies or something. I think he was involved in that film, but he didn't direct it. So I don't know. I could be pulling up a random example, but yeah,
No,
no, that,
no.
yeah, no, that's pretty
And
neat.
some people will say television and movies are different, but as this world is changing, the world of
Right.
entertainment, all this, these worlds, I don't know if there's clarity in any of these worlds anymore. Streaming,
Yeah.
movies
Yeah.
on television, movies in the theater.
Very true.
Yeah, they kind of all feel
Yeah.
kind of a
Well,
mosh pit, as it
there
were,
was
at this
yeah, there
point.
was
Well
always
said,
that
mosh pit.
yeah, there was always that long held like, well, I'm a film actor, and then you see people in these great Netflix projects and things, and then they go back and forth, and yeah, the world changes, and we're all running to keep up in one way or another.
Oh,
But no,
the world is changing in so many ways, but
you got it.
that's
You
for a
Yeah.
got it.
longer podcast.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right. Peter's got another
Very
one.
true. Kind of related to that, the consultant bit that we talked about a little bit. Because I'm a participant in fan projects myself, I saw that you were a consultant with Star Trek New Voyages, which was one of my first interactions with
Yeah.
the fan film community. So I was just curious, how was it for you to be working with the fans who are actively recreating and continuing the original series that like you had ties with, and just how was working with them, and how did that work for you?
I will say that was my first sort of foray into fan films. I had heard of fan films in the past, but didn't really understand them, and sort of did what a lot of people I think in the industry did back then, which was sort of, I wouldn't say turn my nose up to them, but say, oh, that's cute. And,
Yeah.
and I don't want to come off overly arrogant,
I
but
hear you.
I understood what the budgets were for these shows, and I've been to conventions and I've seen people in costumes, and
Hmm.
I thought this is the way they show their love for the show. That's nice. But when I started to see some of these things, especially New Voyages and
Yeah.
Star Trek Continues, I
Hmm.
was very impressed by not just the quality of costumes and lighting and sets, but more importantly, story.
Yeah.
And some of these teams were able to pull in writers from the original series and even some from the next generation and known Star Trek writers. And that says something. When you
Hmm.
get, I don't care what anyone says. For me, writing is number one. If you don't
Oh
have,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
a
Yeah.
good story that brings people in, and especially in Star Trek, that hopefully makes them think a little, shows different points of view, then it's not Star Trek.
Mm.
You can have the best director in the world, and if they're directing a terrible script, forget it.
And it's happened even in Star Trek, unfortunately.
It sadly happens a lot in
Yeah.
everything. But when I went to these sets and saw the people that were on the show and saw how excited they were, uh, I got it. And I got to look at the sets and I got to listen to the creators tell me how they had to source those materials from so far away because they wanted to be accurate. And the harsh
Hmm.
shadows on the ground, when you go back and see original series, you see how harsh those lights are and how
Yeah.
Yeah.
campy it is. Well, they were mimicking that. So the it's not fanatic fandom. It was real passion for something they loved. And then
Hmm.
that spoke to me because that's how I feel about Star Trek.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I can't speak for a lot of them, but New Worlds and Star Trek Continues, you had two great creators there who were doing it for the right reason.
Yeah.
And that's really all that mattered to me.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencaster. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencaster is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution, provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencaster because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencaster has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencaster? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of Zen knowing Zencaster's multi layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So, if you're interested in making an easy, high quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, Go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, a little bit of gear shift, but not really. You were on an episode of The Toys That Made Us, and we talked to Brian Volkweiss a couple of months back, and he's awesome. I keep trying to. He was in a con in Chicago. I was trying to make it there. He was at the con that I did a panel at in Detroit, and we missed each other. I look forward to meeting the guy someday because it seems like he's really awesome. But that episode was about Star Trek toys and models, and you talked a little bit about your experience with that. It's funny, over on the Star Wars podcast that we do, and we have a guest, we ask them what's a peak collectible or model or piece of memorabilia that's your absolute favorite. Maybe it's one that you've built, maybe it's not one you built, maybe it's not even Star Trek.
So this might surprise you. The toy that comes out in my mind that is a Star Trek toy, which, by the way, I never really had any Star Trek toys as a kid, more Star Wars.
Yeah,
Nice.
same all around this room too. I'm a big collector.
But the one I know you're familiar with, which they did feature on the show, was the Spock helmet. It is so absurd and has so little to do with the show
It has nothing to do with anything.
that has gained fandom in its own right, just because of the absurdity. So that may not be an answer to the question you're asking, but when I think about Star Trek toys, I go to that because it is the most absurd, insane, ridiculous toy that you could ever make. It boggles my mind, but if I had to go buy one, if I could wish for anyone, it would be that.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. What about one that's in your collection, or a model that you built? How about a model that you built?
Well, funny that you mentioned Star Trek models. I haven't collected a lot of Star Trek items, but back in first season, it's got to be the first season of Next Generation. AMT made an Enterprise. I think it was a 1701. Maybe it was the movie one. Yay, bigish.
Yeah, I have that, and I have from this first season. I have the 1701D. I still have it. It's in my living room that I painted back in 1987. I've kept it that long.
Well, one morning I got up. I was working on set. I must have been 13, 14 years old. I had made it the night before. I went outside. I spray painted it. I thought I spray painted it silver, and then I brought it in to my dad at the studio.
Oh wow!
Sure enough, they took it, and I think it's gold when we see it. But if you look in either, God, is it Captain's Ready, the office, the Ready Room, or in wherever they met, that's not the Ready Room. That's
in the conference room, the ones on the wall,
the conference room. Yeah, you'll see a gold AMT model in the background.
No way.
And that is my contribution to the Next Generation. I may have painted it gold, or they may have just taken my silver and painted right over it. But he told me that they used it on the show, and that was it. And I don't collect anything else. I haven't made a model since. I peaked at that moment, and I said, you know what? I'm golden. I'm done. I'm out. Mic drop.
Was it the same one that they used in First Duty? Because Wesley had one in his quarters that was silver again, but it was the same model in the corner in his room.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was that one.
Oh wow, yeah, that
maybe
was
they used it twice.
Yeah. That's what it is in TV, reusing things. Well, yeah. As far as that being your last model, my dad always says in golf, end on a good swing. So if that was your best swing, you nailed it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Peter.
I was reading a bit about what you're doing, what you're working with today, and it looks like you're fairly involved with like real world science projects and communities like NASA and JPL, X Prize, and the Planetary Society. Do you have any favorite projects or memories that you worked with them?
I can speak in generalities, and again, I'm not hiding anything. I'm saying that my involvement with JPL, NASA, those organizations has always been very limited, in the sense that I have the opportunity and privilege to go there sometimes and meet people, and I've spoken in once or twice. Um, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity, and JPL does give tours, and I highly recommend if anyone's in the Pasadena area to check it out. But I would say, I met 1994. I went to the second Ansari X Prize launch.
Wow.
And, this was obviously 30 years ago. And this was the second launch of the reusable rocket that had to go up 100 kilometers and back down. And once they achieved that, they won the $10 million X Prize. Uh, and I met someone by the name of Peter Diamandis, who is the founder of the X Prize and is still the founder of the X Prize today. And the way he spoke about humanity and the future and how we must get to that future together and not divided reminded me of my father and Star Trek. And upon meeting him, he shared his love and passion for Star Trek. But more importantly, he shared his love for the idea. It wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily the episodes and reciting plots and scenes. It was that idea. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what resonates with me.
Mhm.
And we hit it off, and I have been a fan of the X Prize and what they've been doing ever since, because they are truly moving the needle for humanity, not just America, in a way that will bring us closer to that future. They're not the only ones, and it
Yeah.
is in the scheme of things a drop in the bucket, but they are truly moving the needle. So I couldn't be more proud to know that team and everyone involved in that organization.
Man,
That's awesome.
that is awesome.
That passion
Yeah,
really
Yeah.
moves things forward. That's
Yeah.
really
certainly.
cool.
Good stuff. Well, Rod, I have been privileged to work with the Mission Log team. John Champion and I met a couple of years ago on the Star Trek cruise. We stayed in touch, and when there was a couple of recent vacancies in the show, I guested on an episode, which was like the thrill. I've been doing this for 10 years. That was the most
Yeah.
excited and nervous I've ever been doing a podcast. But John is a pro, and he's so kind,
Yep.
and I've just become a huge fan of what you guys do. Tell us about some things going on with Roddenberry Entertainment right now. What's on the horizon? What are some ways that people can get involved and enjoy what you guys do?
Y- You know, we, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the industry is changing, whether you want to admit it or not. Now, I don't know if it's for the better, for the worse. There's going to be growing pains for sure. I can't tell you for certain where it's going. I have some ideas. This show isn't about that right now. But
Mm-hmm.
we are going to step into the YouTube area and the content area, and start bringing out some content there. And we're going to dip our toe in the water and make some fun light stuff, at first, and hopefully keep things entertaining. uh, but we've got some show concepts that hopefully get a little bit more in depth and into the nitty gritty of what Star Trek is. And there's, when you are developing your own content, you can frankly develop anything you want. The trick
Mm-hmm.
is, I hate to use the word brand, but what is your brand? What is your message? What's the
Right.
best way to get it out there? Who are you going to put off if you put it out at the wrong time? There's, like any business, it's complicated, and you sort of have to have a strategy. And so we're at the very beginning phase. In fact, I'll probably get in trouble for even mentioning that we're doing this yet. So no one needs to run out to YouTube yet to go see, but I'm hoping in the next 3 to 6 months we'll start having some of the fun stuff out there, and we'll grow like anyone, and we'll
Yeah.
make mistakes, and we'll correct, and we'll course correct, and we'll.
Right.
And it's a lot more exciting, I think, to create your own content than to be constantly knocking on the doors of Hollywood, waiting for
Mhm.
someone to let you in.
Yeah. Yeah. God,
Yeah.
that's
It's
awesome.
it's not as profitable. I mean, it
No.
can be if you're really good at it, but
Right.
But you
Yeah.
can have more guidance on what you're doing, and
Yeah.
you can
yeah. We're
theoretically have
not
more
leaving
fun doing
anything
it.
specifically. I think we
Yeah.
should shift
Yeah.
into that arena because, listen, life is short. We've got a great message. We've got a
Yeah.
great philosophy. Let's incorporate that into something and start sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited to see it, but I'm excited to know you and the other people at Roddenberry that I do. And we, you know what, we're available for weddings and bar mitzvahs. Call on us. We're happy to
Well,
be a part of stuff.
we might be soon too, so we'll see.
All right, I put this down as a lightning round question to wrap things up. If we had a second, you told us "Devil in the Dark" was kind of pop your cherry, for lack of a better expression, like your
Yeah,
favorite episode.
well said.
What's another episode, any series, any franchise that really blew your mind, and why?
There's so many, but just because I thought about it the other day, in Star Trek Prodigy, which,
Oh God,
I'm
it's a
not
great
one to
show.
necessarily sit here and plug shows, but I do have to say, for those out there who heard about Prodigy and were told that it was just a kid's show,
Oh boy, no.
please, it's not. I mean, that was the intention. But they did such a great job. It's great from ages 3. I mean, granted, I'd say even 2 up to
Yeah.
90.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a more adult skew to it in the fact that it deals with real sci-fi and it
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
deals with real human issues in relationships and
Right.
emotions. And the episode, I forgot its name, but it's season 1, where something happened. The ship gets to something, and it messes with the core, and each character is in its own time, and time is
Okay.
moving at a different rate for each character. And within those time shifts, they have to learn where each character was, and that affected how they're perceiving time. And therefore, they had to send their message. They had to create the fix and send it to the next person that was in a little bit faster of a time, and then a
Right.
little bit faster of a time, or sorry, it's the other way, slower of a time, slower of a time, slower of a time, to the last
Yeah.
character, who I can't remember the exact time, but was trapped alone on the ship now for what they perceived as many years, if not
Yeah.
tens, if not hundreds of years.
Right.
And
Right.
they had to take the learnings of everyone else and create and fix the problem. And it was the
Mhm.
character that seemed the least capable, the most childlike character, but they
Yep.
grew and they
Yeah.
learned, and in the end they solved it and saved the day. And it was a great kid show meets great sci-fi with complicated plots and character arcs, and it was like, you know what, this is what we should be showing kids Star Trek is, and
Right.
frankly adults as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. God, great answer. And Prodigy would not be I would think what got plucked. I thought it would be like,
I
oh, I
chose it
love.
because it wouldn't be a
Yeah.
normal answer.
Yeah.
I love
That's
it. Prodigy's great.
that's what we wanted. That's what I'd love to think, that doing this really sets us apart. Well, Rod, this has been incredible.
Yeah, for me as well.
Tell everybody out there how to find Roddenberry, the different branches of the tree. Let us know.
Sure. Of course, roddenberry.com. But what I would encourage people to go look at are our podcasts. And if you want to go straight to what does Roddenberry have, podcast.roddenberry.com has our lineup. I don't know how many shows we have, 10, 15 now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're every type of show. So you don't like these 5, well, there's at least 5 more or 10 more that, you might find something you enjoy.
Right.
So
God.
please come check us out. Please send us feedback. Please tell us what you like, what you don't like. The most important thing we can have around the world right now is an open dialogue where we're willing to feel free to communicate our thoughts and receive the ideas and thoughts of others.
Oh my God,
Mhm.
man, what a great spot to end on. Well, oh my God, Rod, thank you again. I will let folks know who are listening off of our Patreon. If you're listening on our free feed, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. You can get all of our bonus programs. And we've been talking to Rod Roddenberry. It's been terrific. Thanks again. We will
Thank you,
see you
guys.
out there. Yeah, you bet.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Live long and prosper.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member. Get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.